we're not like firing a missile. It's like we're just pressing record.
It's a big red button.
Everything explodes.
Oh, well, hi, Finn.
Well, hi, Andy. I look like I'm in a drunk room at the moment because I've got my Christmas stuff over here, and then I've got the open doorway to the bathroom over there. So you may see my husband disappear into the bathroom at any point during this podcast. Which is like, hi, Ash.
As long as he's got clothes on.
Oh yeah, no, he will. He'll be getting ready for work, so he won't be naked. Don't worry. It won't be like it's not that kind of podcast. I love the twinkly lights.
Hanging out in my lovely bedroom. How's your writing going?
Is my answer. I've had PC issues, so I have been writing very little over the last 2 weeks. Not because I don't want to, but because I couldn't. My PC wasn't working, so I couldn't write anything. I don't like using my phone because you can't format it properly on your phone, and I hate that. So I have done probably a scene, maybe not even that, in terms of writing so far. I have done a little bit more into the one that's been on the back burner. So I came to a little bit of a sticking point with where the motivation of a particular scene is. And I think I've worked through that now, so I kind of know where the backstory of a certain character, which will then drive forward this particular scene. But I haven't really done as much as I wanted to do over the last 2 weeks.
Oh, how is your PC now?
Well, you can see me, so it's working. It's been working since last Friday. I got it fixed, so...
Right, so no excuses. You should have finished that script by now.
Yes, thank you, script editor.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's been working since Friday. It was a CPU issue. And that's all I'm going to say. It's a short version. It was a CPU issue. It was a quick fix. It wasn't a case of you need to spend loads of money to replace it. But now the PC is now working, and I can actually get back to writing.
Woohoo!
Yay! How about you, Andy? I hear you've been very, very busy.
I have been very, very busy. So in a complete twist of events, my legendary pantsing has got me absolutely nowhere. So I started afresh on this whole new idea that I had, and I was very organised and I outlined everything. I have like an Excel spreadsheet all set up with each scene.
She's turning into me, viewers.
You're ruining me, okay?
We're going to watch the next episode and we'll just swap glasses. We're wearing each other's outfits. Complete switch over.
It's a Freaky Friday deal here.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Well, I've made really good progress on that. I think what was it, 50 something pages in 1 week I managed to do.
Yeah, I got a message going 52. I'm like, I'm 33.
Well, it went up to about, I think it went up to 70 something, and then I was taken ill last week, so I haven't been able to do as much as I'd like because I've been in recovery. But between that, I also submitted a script to the BBC Open call.
Yay!
Da, da, da.
I feel like I'm doing like Kermit the Frog. Yeah!
I'm really looking forward to seeing my rejection email.
Then we can be rejection twinsies.
So I'm morphing into you. I need to like rack that rejection up just to like complete the process.
If I start wearing beanie hats and I start writing in cafes, and I will start turning into you.
Oh, don't knock my beanie hat.
I'm not planning at all.
Don't knock my beanie hat.
The earliest photo I remember of Andy is her with a beanie hat on, looking off camera.
Yeah. I lived in that red beanie hat for about 3 months.
I can tell.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Look, beanie hats have a multitude of sins, okay? It's like, if you're ever having a bad hair day, beanie hat. If you're having a good hair day, beanie hat. For every outfit.
I mean, I don't particularly like beanie hats myself because I just found them, they itch my hair after a while.
And for absolutely no reason at all, I will tell you I've got 4 beanie hats.
And each one is more important than the last one.
I have fond memories in each beanie hat.
She never takes them off, apart from today, apparently.
Yeah, well, I can't fit the space buttons in.
She's wearing it on her knee. You can't see it on the camera, but it's on her knee.
No, normally they're hanging up on that hook there.
Oh, right on the thing behind the door.
Yeah, I just took them off because it didn't look great. You know.
I do like the twinkly lights in the background, by the way. We're recording this in the end of November, so not quite Christmas yet. But I like the lights because it reminded me of Christmas. Put me in the mood.
I love my twinkly lights. I fall asleep under the stars.
Aww.
I'm a dreamer, okay? And I'll be honest, it's a little boost for my mental health. Like most nights when I put my twinkly lights on, it's just like a really nice way to end the day.
You're a twinkly light in everyone's heart, Andy.
Oh, you suck up.
Checks in the post. It's funny you should mention mental health. What do you think about mental health in your writing?
Ooh.
How does it interact with it, do you think?
There is a massive crossover between my mental health and my writing. Massive. I mean, this episode could go on for a long time because I'm fooked.
I feel like we're also a little bit fooked.
I think one of the things that's really helped me on my journey with it has been my writing. I've found that there's a lot of therapeutic properties in writing, whether it's I'm journaling, whether I'm exploring things in fiction, or like a lot of my own emotions are coming out in my writing. You know, it's everywhere in my writing landscape. How about you?
I would say that as well. I feel like looking back, I didn't realise it at the time when I'm in my early writing, but looking back on it, and also some of my writing that I do at the moment, a lot of it is kind of like a self-therapy, kind of like something has happened in real life that's affected my mental health, and without realising it, I've put that into my writing. One of the main ones I can think of, just off the top of my head, is in my current script, where I'm writing the police procedural. The main bad guys in that procedural were based off some ex-friends that I have, and they inspired those characters. Yeah, so an unfortunate thing that happened between them that affected my mental health, I put that into my writing and made them into the villains. So yeah.
Have you found that to be quite therapeutic?
Oh yeah, definitely. You can tell them exactly what you feel in fiction.
Yeah. It's kind of like detaching yourself from whatever event it is that occurred or whatever emotion. And you can kind of like orchestrate the scene to play out in a way that's kind of giving you closure as well.
Yeah, because how many times have you had an argument with somebody and you found the perfect comeback in the shower?
All the time.
Or when you're millions of miles away from that person?
All the damn time.
Because I do that in my writing.
See, I just made it sound like I'm very argumentative there, and I'm having arguments all the time.
She never stops arguing with me. Help me best this. It keeps arguing with me.
So take me right back then. Do you find that when something's happened that you can journal something, or is it the fictional world is better for processing?
Definitely the fictional world. I have been to therapy multiple times over my life, and one of the common exercises that happens in therapy is, have you journaled it? Have you done a letter to the person that's wronged you? That sort of thing. And I think the point of that is to kind of put your emotions down on a piece of paper rather than having them stuck in here, and then kind of like work your way through them as you're writing this letter or writing a fiction piece that kind of gets that out. And in the moment, I've always said, "Oh, I can't do that. My emotions are too strong. I don't know what to put down. It'll come out as a load of bleh." But if I put it in a fictional world where I have ultimate control over what happens, then it's easier for me to kind of process that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you?
I'd say so. I do journal. I've been trying to journal a lot more recently, but I'm not journaling anything negative because I feel like writing is such a big part of my life. I feel like the act of writing itself can be quite therapeutic, but also it can exacerbate some of the negative emotions if I'm writing those down. Like, I know I'm pouring it out and I'm getting it out into a different medium, but it's also a very visceral realisation of these negative emotions for me. So I've tried to steer away from journaling negativity, and I've got like a positivity journal. It's full of like photos of friends, gratitudes that I feel every day, things like that. And I found that's had a really positive effect on my well-being because I'm constantly reminding myself of these good things, good memories, even like the smallest little glimmers of good that I've had in the day. I put in my positivity journal.
I find that like if you focus on the positives more than the negatives in that kind of way where you're writing down, you're focusing on those rather than the negatives, it kind of pushes them out of your brain.
Yeah.
So like no space for you, go away. I just wanted to focus on the happy stuff.
Yeah. On
the constructive stuff, not on the destructive stuff.
But I can bring the destructive and the negative stuff over to my fiction writing, and I think that's where it becomes a superpower almost.
Yes, I get this a lot. Yeah, I find that with my antagonistic characters, not necessarily the villains, but like the characters that are always getting in the hero's way or trying to distract them from the story, that sort of thing, I will put those kind of negative feelings. Hi, Ash. I'll put those negative feelings or those kind of like misconceptions that everyone's against you into that character and kind of like channel it through them rather than keep it in here. And that kind of like drives the plot. It also can sometimes kind of like solidify that character if like you're writing a script and like, oh, this character's a bit kind of two-dimensional. I need kind of like a whole character rather than a caricature. having a certain feeling whilst you're writing it can also help you kind of realise what that character's all about. There's a character I have in that police procedural, which is the mother of the victim, and all of that kind of like sassy attitude, all that kind of like, fuck you, I know what I'm doing. You can't tell me what to do, that sort of thing. I put into that character. And it's one of the strongest characters I have in my script, I think. I love writing for her. She's amazing. But yeah, that came from a thing of like, what if I could say exactly what I wanted to say now to this particular person, I channel it through that character. And then that would kind of like, in terms of the plot, that kind of like helps drive it forward, I think, and make the scene stronger. It feels like a real character rather than a caricature.
Do you think these characters, like our own hardships and our own negative biases and, you know, our
mental fallacies,
that sort of thing, do you think it makes the characters a lot more layered and a lot more personable?
Yes, definitely. I mean, how many times have you been to the cinema and a character's acted completely unrealistically because the plot says they need to react that way, rather than logically they wouldn't think about that. Like horror movies, they crave off of this sort of thing of like, none of the characters will react rationally in a horror movie. So it's a complete opposite and subversion of that. Whereas in every other genre, apart from possibly like rom-com or something like that, characters, they do have kind of like a real basis behind them, rather than just being like a two-dimensional character. Unless obviously the plot demands it, like in a sitcom or in a comedy, that sort of thing.
I think I relate to characters a lot more if I can relate to that kind of background or to that theme that I'm very well versed in my own mental health. Because then it's like, it's really nice and validating to see it on the big screen, and I don't feel quite so lonely as an individual in the world. And also in my experiences, you know, it's also there on the big screen. It's not just, you know, big old rom-coms and, you know, dissatisfied people and all that. There's also very, very human stories, very human issues.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, it makes things very human. I definitely resonate more with like characters in like soaps like that who have some form of, what's the word I'm looking for, some kind of neurodivergence kind of aspect to them, whether it is a mental health issue that they have or it's like an aspect of autism or Asperger's, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I
feel like those characters I gravitate towards more because I feel like I can relate to them more than, say, a character that's just absolutely fine and has other crazy things happening to them that are, say, less realistic or less kind of like predictable. Yeah.
Is there any themes that you've seen across your writing that you've gone, oh, actually, that's a big emotion for me in my life, or that's a big part of my life that I didn't realise until I looked back at all my work?
Definitely a feeling of like wanting to belong or having like a community of friends or having a strong support network around the main character or a lack thereof. That seems to be like a big theme on most of my scripts and most of my creative writing journey. I remember on the very first like story thingy that I wrote, like not something that I published, something that I still got a lot of work left to do on it, but when I was like in my early 20s, late teens, I wrote a James Bond knockoff. That's what it was. But it was, instead of it being one single character, it was basically all four of my friends at the time self-inserted into that kind of role. Strengthening the villain. Strengthening the hero, sorry. Strengthening the hero's journey through that.
I want to hug you.
Aww. Well, I would like to say now that I've got a very strong support network and I'm very thankful for every single one of you, including you, Andy.
For our listeners at home, I was doing a love heart with my fingers.
And then I decided to do it as well, and I forgot what a love heart looked like for a couple of seconds, and I had to keep doing this. What about yourself? What kind of themes, like, you noticed that in your own writing when it comes to, like, your mental health and that sort of thing?
I think the biggest one's loneliness.
Oh, that's a big one, yeah.
Yeah. I've spent a good portion of my life in various forms of loneliness. And it's not just, like, one type of loneliness. It's so many different types of loneliness that I think I've experienced across the scope of my life so far. You know, like, there's abandonment issues, there's, you know, narcissistic influences in my life, and it's led to a lot of loneliness and a lot of inability to believe in myself, a lot of self-doubt. My self-esteem's very, very low sometimes, and I think that comes from loneliness, from not having that support network during my formative times, from not having healthy relationships, from not having supportive relationships. And it's definitely
you sometimes become your own worst enemy with that sort of thing, because you'll make yourself feel shitter than you already do because you've got no one else to bounce off of, or you've got no other outlook that's going to challenge that.
No, and the inner critic is so loud, and has been my whole life.
Yeah.
And leaning into that lonely feeling, the inner critic's kind of been the person who's always been there for me. Not in a good way, but because I've been in such lonely positions, like the inner critic is my biggest person. So I think that's bled a lot into the characters that I form, their journeys that they go on. Loneliness just keeps appearing in these scripts over and over. It's appeared in my novel, which is actually called In a Lonely Manor, and is...
You see, there's a link there. There's a direct link.
It is very thematic around loneliness. And it's only in the last, I want to say, 2 years-ish, roughly, that feeling of loneliness has been dissipated quite a lot. Like, I've lessened that inner critic. I've got you guys as my friends. I've got, we're building this beautiful podcast. We're building this lovely community. I'm in a relationship where there's not as loud a loneliness feeling.
Lovely to hear.
It's starting to come good. And I'm also doing the inner work in terms of therapy as well. That's a huge benefit in my life.
Therapy is an amazing tool to have in this sort of situation. I would also like to say as well, we aren't therapists. We aren't licensed professionals. We're just giving our opinion on mental health based on our own backstory. We're not doctors. If you are going through a mental health crisis at the moment or suffering with your mental health, our advice is probably to speak to your general practitioner if you're in the UK, or your doctor, or look into getting a therapist if you feel like that would be the best thing for you. Yeah. I
think we'll also try and put some resources at the end of the episode.
That might be helpful for you guys. If you need to talk to someone, we'll try and put that in the notes down the bottom. I don't know how Andie does it, but she's amazing. She can do this. I am constantly in awe of her social media prowess.
I'm still learning. I barely update the Instagram.
But when she does, it's fucking amazing.
We're trying. We're learning.
Oh my god, Andie's updated the Instagram.
We are amateurs.
I'll also say as well, we're not professionals yet, but we could be. But yeah, so I think another theme as well that I've noticed, particularly in the one that I'm currently working on, there is also the main character he's in his 60s, but he has an estranged relationship with his son as well. And I don't have an estranged relationship with my family, by the way. I just want to put that down now. But there have been times where it's been difficult to speak to certain members of that family. And I think I kind of channeled that into just because of disagreements and that sort of thing. I'm not going to go into too much into the backstory of that character because that will come up later on. But that's also a theme that I've noticed as well, is the kind of the breakdown of relationships and how that can drastically affect someone's support network, as I mentioned beforehand, or their sense of self as well.
Yeah.
Put it in professional terms.
I actually find it very difficult as a writer to put my protagonist through hardships that I've been through, because I know what my experiences were, I know what my emotional feelings were with it, and I don't want to relive it for them. I feel really bad, if I'm making my protagonist suffer, they have to suffer for the plot. They've got to suffer.
Kill your darlings is the common quote. It's you have to kill your darlings. Don't be so precious with every character. They have to go through a hardship for them to become a stronger, more three-dimensional character.
Yeah,
as you were saying.
But I just can't really reflect it, as realistic as I experienced it, because it's like reliving my own trauma, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it to my protagonist. I don't want anyone to suffer the pains that I went through.
Same for me as well.
But they're fictional. They don't exist, But that emotional resonance is still the same.
That's it, is it? It's that kind of distance between what you've gone through and what the character can go through. If it's too close to home, should we say, it can be incredible to kind of put that down in a way that doesn't seem inauthentic to what you've gone through or what a particular character's gone through, and try to also make it true to what you want to put across, what message you want to put across, that sort of thing.
It's a difficult one to balance, to be honest.
It is. It's kind of like doing an autobiography or a memoir, and kind of putting anecdotes from your life into your script, but then also just changing all the names of everybody in there, including yourself. So it seems like it's happening to somebody else rather than you.
Yeah.
And you can kind of zoom out, look at it, and actually, no, I should have reacted like this in this situation, or they should have done this in this situation. That would have made me feel like this, and so on and so forth.
There's an element of fantasy fulfillment and escapism as well. If you use
definitely escapism.
If you're using writing as a tool for your own therapeutic process, I think putting yourself in a position where you can twist the outcome, change what's happened, it is like fantasy fulfillment. That's how you wanted it to go. That's how you wanted the experience to be. That's how you wanted to react. So you can make your fictional people react that way.
It reminds me of, there is a really, really good rom-com that my mate Judith actually introduced me to, which is it About Time or In Time, something like that, something to do with time. I think it's on Netflix, and it's Daniel's Look main character falls in love, but he keeps messing it up. And his father introduces him to some form of time travel. I can't remember exactly what it is, because it's been a while since I've seen this film. And if he concentrates, he can go back in time, but he can only go back in time up to a certain point after he's already lived through it. So he can go back and change things that would have messed things up in his current timeline. So he goes through the story, basically making things better for himself and this woman that he loves. But until he realises he can't go back to change everything, after he's lived through a certain point, he can't go back further than that. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll need to find it on Netflix and tell you what the name of that thing is. About Time, that's the one. 2013. It's a romantic comedy film. And it's great. It's got Bill Nighy in it, which is an amazing role. Oh yeah, you should definitely watch it. It's on, I think it's on Netflix. It's rated 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's really good. I shall send you a link now. Hang on a second.
Kudoki.
But yeah, Judith recommended me that film, and it's great. It just reminded me that, as you're saying, like the fantasy fulfillment, going back in time to fix things that you couldn't do in real life, but you can do in scripts.
I like that. Everyone loves the idea of a do-over, don't they?
They do, yeah. What would you do differently if you could do it again? Or would you do anything differently? I like to say that I would like to have met Ash earlier than I did. Oh. But Ash would say that, no, you wouldn't want to meet me earlier than you did, because I was an absolute bastard before you met me. And I was like, okay, I kind of get that.
I can see both arguments there.
Yeah. And not to get up my arse too much, but it means that the fact that we met kind of like changed him for the better without me even realising it.
Aww.
He'd be like, oh my god, that's so gay.
Yeah, I mean, I know him way beforehand, and he's definitely settled down with you.
I believe it.
You're a good influence. You're a good egg.
Thank you.
Are there any films or storylines or characters that you've resonated with the most then, with your own mental health and how they portray it?
The first things that come into my head are, as I mentioned before, like with British soaps, they do this a lot. Particularly with coming out storylines. There's a lot of those in British soaps. I'd say ones that I could think of are ones that happened after I'd come out, but they do have a nice comforting feeling to them when they do have a coming out storyline. So a recent example is in the British soap EastEnders. One of the main characters' sons comes out to them. I think his name is Johnny Carter. This is way, way back now. This is probably like 2010s, in that kind of that decade. But the stereotype is the mum's very, very loving and the dad would disown them. But they switch them round. So the dad is very, very loving and accepting, and it's like, it's absolutely fine, as long as you're okay, as long as you're happy, I'm happy with that. And the mum's very distant, and there's no kind of like preconception that she would be distant to her son up until this point. And then obviously that kind of like brings another storyline into like, why is she so distant towards this? And then eventually she comes to accept him. And when it came to that kind of part of my life where I did come out, none of my family have ever shunned me or like disowned me, which is, I know, a very privileged position to be in. A lot more difficult environments than that.
Yeah.
But it is comforting to watch that kind of storyline happen to another character and be like, yes, this brings up feelings of what I had before I did come out, and also not so comforting feelings up at the same time. But it's important for people to kind of like live through other characters in those sort of like times of difficulty.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they've got another character in the same soap that's going through a depressive cycle. And I'm like, well, I've suffered with depression before in the past. Not the same way that the character would be, but I relate to certain aspects of her behaviour because I've gone through those similar kind of feelings as well.
There's like a comfort in the relating to these characters and these storylines, isn't there?
Yeah, it's comfort in like knowing like you're in a better place than you were that this character's currently in.
Yeah.
And also kind of like, well, I know what they need to do to get through this sort of thing.
Yeah. Do you find yourself rooting for them on a deeper level?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very British thing to root for the underdog, but there's definitely that kind of thing of like, I want them to be better, I want them to do well, I want them to realise the power of themselves, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Quite kind of aspirational in a way. And I kind of want to do that in my own writing as well. Kind of write characters that people want to aspire to, people are inspired by, rather than just doing the cookie cutter character that everyone's expecting to come with a police procedural or the gay best friend in a romantic comedy. There's going to be a will they, won't they? There's going to be the crazy friend. There's going to be the ex, all that sort of thing. But I want to kind of subvert that. I don't want people to be expecting those sort of roles if I write a rom-com at some point. I want to kind of subvert that in a way that's comforting and also surprising.
Awesome. I get that. I like the idea of having characters that you can just go, this is my person, this is me.
What about yourself, Andy? Like, what characters do you remember in like the media that have resonated with you?
The most recent one has been Nobody Wants This. Have you seen that?
I've not heard of it. No, this is the first I've heard of it.
Oh, it's on Netflix. Absolutely brilliant. It's Kirsten Bell and Adam Brody.
I love Kirsten Bell.
Oh, she's fabulous in this. She's basically like a, I want to say 40s, maybe late 30s, something. Podcaster.
Ooh, okay.
she's gone through quite a lot of, hello Ralph, a lot of dates, and her romantic life isn't going great, and she ends up falling in love with Adam Brody's character. And it just explores the whole insecurities that you've got around dating, unhealthy relationships, and how they compare with when you're finally in like a healthy relationship. And one of the biggest things that I related to with her was when she couldn't tell him this one thing without turning her back on him. And she kind of said it with her back to him because she couldn't look at him. And it was basically about it was basically about like her own insecurities and how she's really nervous about being in a relationship. He gave such a comforting response to it, and it kind of like it healed so much inside me to watch it played out like that, because that's like everything I aspire for, like to be seen, to be heard, to be comforted, to be reassured, to not be alone in that experience. And it was played out so beautifully in this TV show that I was hugging my TV and crying most nights.
Hugging the TV and crying?
Yeah, it was quite a sight to see, especially because it's mounted on a wall. My boyfriend walks in, he's like, what are you doing? I'm just having a moment.
Leave me alone. You're the weird one. It's also reminded me as well, characters that have got like TV shows even that have got a good kind of like hold on like mental health and like how to portray stuff like that. It's recently happened on Disney Plus. A lot of people have been ranting and raving about it, but Agatha All Along, that has a lot of mental health related issues, particularly around generational trauma throughout all of its characters, and how that kind of gets passed on to the child, and then how they have to like then will either repeat the sins of their parents or they find a way of breaking through it. And that's like going through the whole series of Agatha All Along.
Oh wow.
And a lot of people have praised it for that.
I've not seen
it. It's really good. I would highly recommend it. It's great. And it's very witchy.
Okay.
So if you like your witchy stuff, highly recommend Agatha All Along. You don't necessarily even have to watch WandaVision for that either.
I like the idea of openly talking about breaking generational curses, because it seems like it's such a taboo topic that, for a mainstream TV show to go, actually, generation above us might have done some damage in how they've coped with things and how they've passed it along to the younger generation and how the younger generation's dealing with it. It's quite nice to see it being openly discussed and tackled.
Absolutely, and you're with all these characters as well. Though I don't think there's apart from Agatha, I don't think there's any character in there that's like irredeemable. They're all kind of like redeemable characters, but they're all going through similar struggles and generational trauma on top of that.
I wonder if that's why people like the reformed bad guys in a lot of things. They like the redemption arc because they can relate to their own inner feelings in terms of wanting redemption. Not necessarily because they've done bad things, but because they need that closure or they need that journey. Yeah.
So, like, the most recent one I can think of is Wicked, which is the Wicked Witch of the West having a redemption arc, basically, or lack of.
It's nice to see some positive things as well. Like I was saying with Nobody Wants This, and how it healed that inner child in me who needed to like be seen and be heard. It's nice to have those positive storylines.
I love that phrase of like healing your inner child as well, because when we're kids we go through a hell of a lot of things that we can't process at the time, and as we get older, stuff like that, in hindsight is 2020, you look back in hindsight, it's like, well, actually no, it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. You've come out the other end and you're such a better person because of it, or in spite of it, sorry, should I say. So yeah, it's a lovely phrase that you just said there. Healing your inner child.
Thank you. I have to do a lot of that work. there's a couple of things that I would like to see kind of being mainstreamed or normalised. I know this one might be slightly controversial, but sometimes when you're in the throes of dealing with some shit, sometimes you're not reacting right. Sometimes you're an explosion of emotion. You're not yourself. You're reacting wrong. You've got the wrong coping mechanisms. And it does tend to push people away, or it can push them to the outer boundaries of what they can tolerate. And I'd like to see some more of that, just like normalise that kind of experience. Not in a, we'll encourage it, but in a, you're not alone. People are going to drift apart from you whilst you're doing this, but you'll be okay. You'll get through this, Does that make sense?
It's more common in the negative way, definitely in media. Displaying that as like, there's a big blow up, and it's like, that person is the worst person because they blew up. They didn't just like get over it in like half an hour. It's often persuaded very negatively, like, oh, they've just blown a fuse.
Yeah, and that's it.
But it's their own fault kind of thing. And it's like, it's not.
Yeah, and
it's like most of the case when people get to that point where they like blow up, it's like, it's not one thing and then boom. It's a series of things that build up, which on their own wouldn't be that big a deal, but altogether just kind of, it overwhelms the system and it will cause a big blow up, or your version of a big blow up.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, if I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I'll go very quiet.
Same.
And I won't say anything, and I'll just stay in my own little head. It will be the point where someone will notice, like, you've been very quiet today. I'm like, oh no, I'm fine. And that's like the depression thing, getting in, like, put that mask on, you're fine, don't let everyone else think that anything's wrong with you. Not that there's anything wrong with anybody who's depressed at the moment, but there's that internal thought, like, you need to put a mask on, make sure everyone's happy, don't think about your own feelings, think about everybody else's feelings, kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's going to be like there's consequences to things like that. Sometimes friendships will fall apart because of it, sometimes relationships will fall apart because of it. I think it'd be nice, comforting or reassuring perhaps, to see more characters who do go through that, who have that introspection of, actually, I done goofed.
Or introspection of like, okay, well, that relationship's broken down, I don't need to immediately go after it and try and fix things.
Yeah.
If it's clearly over. And being okay with things being over and having an ending, because it means it will open up space for new things to happen, rather than focusing on the negative of like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm not friends with that person anymore. Rather than that person was in your life for a certain amount of time, they were either useful or they used you, and now you've got space in your life for someone else to come in and be a more positive influence on you, or you to be a more positive influence on them.
Yeah, that level of introspection and how can I do better? I think it could do being more pronounced in some films, some stories.
I think we were spoiled on the notion of, don't make a fuss, everything's okay, make sure everyone's happy, sacrifice your own feelings for other people, make sure everyone's all right. It's like, your quarrel doesn't matter compared to everybody else's. We're spoiled on that kind of theory, so that gets into our heads when it comes to like real life stuff, where we're like, we enact that in real life.
Yeah.
There isn't enough examples of that in the media where it's kind of going against that. You don't need to constantly impress people. You don't need to constantly keep your emotions in. Don't express them. Don't make a fuss. Don't do that sort of thing. There isn't enough examples of like doing the opposite of that and then dealing with that and seeing everything's going to be okay.
I would love to show more human stories where men can express their emotions as well and try and normalise.
Oh my god, men are awful.
I would love for that to be normalised. Like, give me weeping dudes. Give me, guys who can express their emotions healthily. Give me guys who have that emotional resonance and the ability to express. Let's normalise it. Let's make it healthy.
Give us Ewan McGregor at the end of Moulin Rouge. We want that.
Yes. Make them cry.
Make them want it.
I think in the media we've got so many different influences coming at us as a barrage everywhere. We've got the news all the time, we've got social media all the time, we're building our own echo chambers all the time. I think if we can use fictional media to, try and normalise a lot healthier behaviours, a lot healthier emotions, we can not undo all that damage, but we can at least make a slight difference.
Work through it.
Yeah.
And improve the world for the future, which sounds a bit kind of big-headed when we saying that. I'm not running for political office, by the way. But it seems like small things can make big things happen.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And sometimes you don't realise it.
Yeah. Normalize healthy expressions of emotions, and it's okay to feel your emotions.
Like Inside Out is a big thing for this.
Yes.
It's all about emotions. But like that normalization of like you can express your emotions. You don't have to keep everything in. Fuck everybody else. Make sure you get your own shit sorted, and then decide everybody else. It's that opposite thing of like being in a plane. It's like secure your own mask before you secure the next person's mask.
Yep.
Secure your own mental health before you decide to try and control everybody else's opinion on yourself.
Do the inner work.
Do the inner work before you can do the outer work.
This is what I really loved about Nobody Wants This, is just Adam Brody's character just was so beautifully open. He was emotionally open, he was emotionally reassuring, and it was just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. It kind of like, it works quite well because they're quite like opposites. So from what you've mentioned, like Kristen Bell's character is quite closed off. She's very kind of like, I'm happy with where I am at the moment. I don't need anything else distracting me. Why do I need love in my life? That sort of thing. Adam Brody's character is very open and completely the opposite of Kristen Bell's character. Actually makes them perfect because they can blend together and help each other out.
Speaking of Kristen Bell, you watched The Good Place.
I have heard of The Good Place, yes.
You've not watched The Good Place? Oh my god, tough crowd.
Watch The Good Place. I know what the twist is, so it's fine. That's already been spoiled for me.
Tough crowd, dude. Like, honestly. How can you be into writing?
I feel like every single podcast we mention something and someone else goes, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. The character who's the foil for Kirsten Bell's character, who I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head, but the character's name is Chidi Anagonye. Mm-hmm. I related to him so hardcore with his anxiety, his inability to make decisions. One of his trademark lines is, "Oh, I've got a stomach ache," and like that's me all the time. And there's this really great scene where he's having to do this test where he has to make a decision, and the decision is a black hat or a white hat. It takes him a long time, and even then he doubts the decisions that he's made.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
It resonates so much with that anxiety. Like, there's a word for it. I'm sure of it.
Decision blindness or something like that?
No, it's where you get overwhelmed with having to make a decision.
Oh, I don't know. It's not coming to me.
Whatever it is, I experience that quite a lot. Quite to the frustration of quite a few people. So I can relate to Chidi, and that was really fun to like have that explored on screen. Even though it was done like in a comedic way and for a comedy program.
A comedy is really, really effective in it, kind of like realizing your own feelings or like validating your own feelings, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
it thrives on that.
And it wasn't minimizing the experience. It was kind of relating in a completely different way that lightened the experience.
Yeah. Like the first thing I can think of when it comes to like validating your own feelings and experiences is, I mentioned it before in a previous podcast. I'm going to mention it again. I don't care about the haters. Is Scrubs. Because Scrubs is, all of the characters are fallible in some kind of way. And that kind of instantly kind of makes them human, because everyone's fallible. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has royally fucked something up.
Yes. And
that TV series thrives on characters royally fucking things up in a hilariously comedic way. Or people just daydream in the middle of the day because they're bored or overwhelmed by something. And I find myself doing that at work a lot as well.
And you do work in a hospital?
I do. Unfortunately, I haven't seen many doctors fly down the hall on a trolley yet. Just going, you go.
No, but you have seen my mother on morphine.
I have seen your mother on a ward, yes.
And on morphine.
You haven't seen Ash in a hospital bed about gout yet, though, so still time.
My mum was doped up on morphine when she met Finn in the hospital, and it was quite interesting.
Yeah, apparently I'm very, very attractive, according to your mum.
Yep.
You messaged me saying something about like, "Oh, Ash has done well" or something like that, and I was probably going, "Still got it."
We have very interesting lives.
Mm-hmm.
There's something else that I wish to see normalised on screen. And you know how we've got like all these extreme beauty standards when it comes to films, when it comes to TV. Like even dystopian women have, no armpit hair, anything like that.
Reality TV as well.
Yeah, like we have to have this picture perfect kind of experience. I'd like to see someone who has similar traits to myself, such as the skin picking around the fingers, which I know is kind of gross.
Yeah, not the nicest thing I've heard you say, so...
It's a deeply ingrained kind of trauma response, almost like an anxiety response that I can't seem to, stop as a habit. And I feel quite self-conscious about it. Even talking about it right now, I'm like, oh, people don't want to hear about that. But I'm not alone in doing it. Like, I'm not one
you're the only person who does that.
Yeah, I'm not one in, hundreds of thousands of people. There's quite a lot of people who do this as well. And I'd like to see things like that just discussed or some normalised in some respects that makes me feel like less like I'm competing with all these beautiful displays of anxiety and have something like a little bit raw, a little bit more human, a little bit more that I can connect with.
Yeah, it just reminds me as well, like when I mentioned before, where I go quiet when I'm overwhelmed, that's kind of a trauma response as well, because when I was younger, I got bullied a lot. I know, not a therapy session, but I'm mentioning it anyway. So I would go inside my own head and I'd be like, this is you know how you have that, we mentioned earlier on, when you have an argument with yourself and you think of the perfect response in your own head hours later. I would do that, but because I was worried about how other people saw me or how I acted in front of other people, I would internalize that, so I wouldn't say it. And now, whenever we're in a situation where, say, I'm having a disagreement with somebody, my first response is to shut down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you know that I'm annoyed with you or I'm angry with you, because I'll shut down. I won't say anything, I won't do anything, I'll just shut down and not say anything. But looking back, I'm like, that's been learned from when I was a teenager being bullied. It's like, don't say anything, don't do anything, just stay there and stay static. I don't think you see much of that in creative media. It's more the after effects of it, like we mentioned beforehand, the blowing up.
Yeah.
Or like the things that happen beforehand that will build that up, not doing anything, kind of shutting down, closing yourself off kind of thing, which is also equally valid.
Yeah.
People's responses.
I suppose you've kind of got to balance that sort of thing with, you're going to have people, directors, producers, executives who want everything to move along. It's got to move along fast. We need to get our money's worth out of this, so we need the story to flow as quick as we can.
Every page has to work for it.
I would see that as kind of like a slow pace kind of response, a kind of something that takes a little bit of time, because I'm with you on that. I shut down as well. I describe it as locking into myself. I don't know how would you? And it's so difficult to break out of that silence on your own.
Definitely kind of like trying to, it feels a little bit like you're killing your ego to kind of like get over that bit.
Yes.
Or kind of express it in a way that's rational and not like a bleh kind of thing.
Yeah. So to get through that process, it's going to take up precious page space.
That's true. Like, nothing happening isn't very exciting on a script. Unless that nothing happening is crucial to a plot point, or something else is happening whilst nothing, in inverted quotes, is happening. Like, we can see the inside of someone's internal monologue, say. Because if it was, imagine watching Scrubs, but all of the daydreams were cut out and the fantasies were cut out, and you just saw JD just stop and do that. But however long that scene would be, it would be very, very boring. It would waste a lot of time.
When you shut down, you're not just sitting there staring into space. There's a lot of visceral responses to it, isn't there? There's a lot of physicality.
It's kind of like you either go into autopilot or you just kind of stand still and or stay where you are and not do anything until whatever is exacerbating it disappears or goes away. But do you have any kind of like rituals or routines to kind of get you into like that writing space?
Oh, my writing head. Yeah,
your writing head.
I stick a beanie on.
The red one, no, not the ones. The red one is the writing beanie.
I'm really terrible. I have to have like a clean area, otherwise I can't focus.
My desk is chaos. Don't want to look at my desk right now.
No, I've seen your desk.
Which is weird because when we mentioned beforehand, like, I'm the planner, I'm very methodical when it comes to my scripting, whereas you're kind of the pantser.
Yep.
And then our workstations are completely the opposite.
My
workstation is chaos, whereas yours is quite ordered and tidy and orderly.
Yes, I have a cleanliness issue. I need things to be clean before I can do things. Like, I can't go to bed with a messy kitchen. I cannot do it. And if I do...
I'm very lazy with that sort of thing. I was like, I'll do it in the morning. That's me. But I think that's probably more of a man thing than anything else.
It's got to be a nice clean area for me to work. I need a cup of tea.
I need a cup of coffee. This is very important to me. I need to have a cup of coffee.
Guys, we're recording this at 9 o'clock at night and Finn's got a cup of coffee.
Hey, it works for me. Don't hate it. Don't hate it.
I'm just questioning it.
Hey, you have a go at me, but how many times have you been in the club when you were younger and you had like a Jaeger bomb at like 2 a.m.?
I do remember once I got very, 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 very incredibly. I cannot emphasize like how close to alcohol poisoning I was. Drunk.
Oh shit.
Drunk on double vodka and Red Bull because it was £1 at Student Union.
That's what they get you. It's the £1 like juice flavour alcohol that are lethal.
That was the night we got the hung parliament got declared.
Well, I mean, and if anything was going to make you drink, it's going to be that.
I totally blacked out, and then the next thing I remember is sitting in the Student Union, staring at the screen as they declare the hung parliament, just going, I don't know what's going on.
Don't know where I am.
Yeah. I don't remember much after that, but...
I have a story of Ash before he met me. Apparently, he ended up in the emergency room because he had, like, a fuck ton of, like, Monster shots and not realising it was Monster and not juice.
Oh, no.
And his heart rate was, like, 200 beats per minute or something like that. That's been crazy.
He's got
we
a
had to go
dodgy
to hospital
heart.
to get it down again.
Doesn't he have a dodgy heart?
He might do now.
Oh, dear.
No, his heart's fine. I think it's just his lungs at the moment. His lungs or his back or his foot.
It changes every time we talk.
He's an 83-year-old man stuck in a 35-year-old man's body.
True. What are your writing routines or rituals?
So, as you mentioned beforehand, cup of coffee, have to get the caffeine in my body to get the mind flowing, shall we say. And my husband does a lot of, like, collects a lot of witchy kind of pagany stuff. And, like, I'm not as into it as much as he is, but I do like collecting the crystals and stuff like that. And I know that it's bullshit before anyone starts, but I do have a couple of gems on my desk that I like to kind of pick up and touch before and during writing. So I have a little pyrite point here, which is my favourite stone in my collection. And then I also have, at the moment, I have some moss agate and I have a sodalite stone, which is supposed to be like a worry stone. So you're supposed to put like your thumb on it and like do this.
It's a fidget spinner.
Kind of like a fidget spinner, yeah. And that kind of like grounds me a little bit before I start writing. So I don't kind of like get distracted and drift off to do other things. Because I tend to do that a lot. I'm like halfway through a page and I'm like, this has become really difficult. I know, I'll go play on the Xbox for a bit. And then like 3 hours have turned by and you're like, I've not done anything. So that kind of like helps me kind of focus more on that.
Yeah.
Rather than getting distracted. Having breaks, having regular breaks as well is a really good kind of part of your routine. Not like I've just said, like playing a video game for 3 hours and then coming back and going like, what did I do again?
That counts.
Like having like a 15-minute, 20-minute break after you've done like a milestone amount of writing. It's like end of a page. It doesn't have to be anything more than that really. An end of a page, end of a scene, end of an act. Give yourself a little break.
Yeah.
Then come back to it. That's the important thing, is to come back to it. Don't just take it as a break and then come back to it 3 days later. Continue on where you were going rather than trying to micromanage every little bit you've just written. So you're constantly writing a fresh writing stream. It could all be shit, and that's fine. That's what re-edits are for. But the fact is trying to keep your writing rather than just kind of doing the same bit over and over again. Because I've done that. I've kind of like restitched the same scene multiple times rather than actually just moving on and coming back to it.
Yeah, when you get stuck in that editing loop.
Yeah.
It is a good idea to take breaks as well, particularly if you're in front of a laptop for quite a long time, because physically you're going to start to feel sluggish. I'm 34 years old and my bones start to get tired. Yeah.
If I'm staring at a screen, if it's either writing related or not writing related, my eyes start to hurt.
Yeah.
So I get real like pain behind my eyes and I start to feel tired. And like I need to step away from this PC because it starts to affect me. Yeah. Or real stronger cases, I get like not headaches but like feeling a little bit kind of nauseous and I need to kind of look away from the screen for a bit.
Yeah. If all these things are affecting you physically, it's not going to help you mentally as well.
Oh no, definitely not. No, it's probably going to exacerbate it rather than help it.
Yeah. So, regular breaks is a good idea.
Or also as well, it depends if you like this in the background. Some people don't like any noise in the background whilst they're writing. But I tend to sometimes put music on whilst I'm writing. And that can kind of like... I mentioned this in the previous podcast as well. Just a recap of episode, whatever it was. I like to put music on in the background as well. That kind of like keeps me in that zone, keeps me at the keyboard rather than kind of drifting off and doing other things.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of having lo-fi on in the background when I'm writing.
Yeah, that's
Like
cool.
fireplace pictures with lo-fi on.
I am one of those people who love the sound of like rain on a window when you're inside. I
Ooh.
love that. Or skylight. Oh, that's so good.
Do,
I love that sound.
do you know what? There's something really, really, really nice about writing in a cafe when it's absolutely tipping it down. It's, there's the rain on the windows, there's the warmth and the hissing from the coffee machine, and yet I absolutely hate sitting in a cafe writing, but I love the ambience of it.
Oh yeah, no, the ambience is great. I think I mentioned this in the first podcast. By the way, this is a podcast of references to other podcasts that we've already done.
We've done other podcasts.
We've done other podcasts, yeah. You can watch all 7 of them on Spotify and YouTube now. But in the first one I mentioned, like, I could never be one of those writers who does it in a cafe because I would be self-conscious of other people seeing what I write, and either asking me questions about that writing and kind of knocking me out of that kind of like Zen mode, or asking me stupid questions about it, like, can I be in it? Which I know, like, now that I'm old, in my early 30s, I know that no one would even bother to care because they've got their own shit going on. But I don't think I couldn't get into that headspace of like, I'm in a public place and I need to write.
Yeah.
I think it's more, for me, it's more of a personal kind of experience rather than a public experience for me.
Yeah. And to be fair, the last time you wrote in public, you nearly got done for public indecency. Don't write fan fiction in public, Finn.
The mood struck me, and I just had to get down on the page. Moving on. There's a lot of things to consider when it comes to like writing, mental health, and that sort of thing. What to include, what kind of mental headspace to be in whilst you are writing, that sort of thing. Is there anything else you can add to that, Andy?
Writing can be therapy in itself.
I definitely agree with that.
I would always encourage people to give journaling a go, give writing a go, give any form of fictionalising their own process a go. See if it gels with them, see if it's some sort of tool that they can have in their toolbox for their mental health.
It's okay to feel your emotions.
Yes, and 100% sit with your emotions, feel your emotions, express your emotions.
Get to know your emotions. Take them out for a date.
Give them a Q&A like Finn does with all of his characters.
What is your romantic history like? Our character number A? It's very late. We'll leave it there then, shall we? Sound off in the comments down below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're subscribed to YouTube down below, please do sound off in the comments what you think regarding to writing and your own mental health struggles. Once again, we are not therapists, we're not mental health professionals.
We're only discussing our own experiences.
Exactly, Andy, exactly. Yeah, and I hope it might help you in the future as well. But yeah, so subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, and you can also follow us on Instagram. What's the Instagram handle?
Path to Publication Podcast, whenever I do update it. Yeah, we're on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook page.
Is there going to be a Blue Sky page, maybe?
Maybe we're going to look into that, expanding our social media once I get into routine with it.
Watch this space for that. But we will definitely see you on the next episode.
Drop us a comment, drop us a review, share your experiences. We'll love every conversation we have with you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation.
This has been the Path to Publication.
I've been Finn.
And I've been Andy.
Bye, everyone!
Bye!
We did it! We didn't mess it up! Yes!
Hey guys, we've had quite a lot of outtakes for you on this one. Here's the bits that didn't quite make it. So I've tried to steer away from journaling negativity, and I've got like a positivity journal. Hello.
Hi, Ash.
Hello.
Sorry, Ash has come to say hello. We're worried you come in with no clothes on.
Well, I mean, I'm getting underwear. At least I remembered them this time, Andy. Will you be recording till I go?
Probably, yeah.
I'll say my goodbyes now then.
Okay.
I'll see you in the morning.
Good morning.
Bye, Ash.
Bye. And then there goes Ghost as well. Sorry, as you were saying, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I forgot what I was saying. I'm just going to do a video compilation of Ash going.
Just going, hello, bye, hello. Yeah, it makes things very human, very...
Would you fuck me?
Love you! I'm getting a divorce. Whereas Adrian Brody's character is more kind of like open to his emotions, open to change.
Adam Brody.
Yeah. Say Adrian Brody.
Yeah, it's Adam Brody.
I meant to say Adam Brody. Say Adam Brody. You would have thought I got that right because it's the same name as mine.
Wait, your name's Adam?
Okay. Take two.
One more. Oh, Finn, you froze.
One eternity later.
Are you back in the room?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello. I'm back. Sorry, it was my side. The internet went down on my side.
Oh, is that what it was?
I thought it was you because you froze, but I was still working. I was like, oh, maybe something's gone wrong on Andy's side. And I was looking at the internet symbol. I was like, oh, that's showing me that I've got no internet. I was like, I do have internet. So I was like, yeah, it's me. It was me. Now that I'm a 35-year-old man. No, I'm not. I'm not 35. I'm 33. Thinking of Ash. Now I'm an 83-year-old man. And we're done. My jaw's starting to hurt here. That I don't have a whiteboard on me. I need a whiteboard.
We are professionals.
Although I tell you what I did do. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But I went on the BBC website and I printed off a script for Ashes to Ashes, so I'm going to read that.
Oh.
To try to give me some inspiration to that scene I'm stuck on. Inspiration and light and steel is what I meant to say.
Nice.